All right, Annie McDonnell from the Write Review is going to start her Hearing Voices game show. So I'm turning it over to Annie. Go, Annie, go. Hit record, everybody. Woo, she's got her things on.
Hi, everybody. I'm Annie with the Write Review, and I am here with, well, 8 awesome authors. And let me quickly introduce you to everybody that I have here. But first of all, I'd like to thank Kathy Murphy for inviting me to have a panel for this special Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys event. I really appreciate it. And it's exciting to me to bring forth my favorite authors, you know, some of my favorite authors. Couldn't bring them all in, but these are definitely my favorite authors that I've been following, most of them since their first book. So it really means a lot to me. I always say I want to shout from the rooftop, so this is as high as I can get at Kathy Murphy's book club, right? So thank you very much. And we figured if it's a slumber party, we must play a game. So that's what we're going to do. But I'm going to have you meet everybody first. So first, well, I don't see everybody. My team has to be together to play this game. Can you set that up, Plug?
We're working on it. Hang on.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
It's not from our end, I guarantee you. Okay, there you go.
All right,
working on it.
Okay, there we go. So first, I'd like to introduce you to my partner in crime over on the Second Line show, author Nola Nash. Nola, she's waving. Hold up your book. She's right below me. She wrote a novel that you will not soon forget once you read it. It may even make you carry around a blanket like Linus for the rest of your life, because it's a little scary. And you want to cover yourself with that blanket, especially when you're reading the second book, Crescent City Sin. This book gave me chills to the bone, and I just loved both of the books. Nola donated a tarot card reading and candled, blessed, and dressed to the Pat Conroy Literary Institute for the silent auction. And this is all because she learned this stuff while researching her book. So that will tell you a little bit about that. So head on over there to the silent auction. And then the next author I'd like to introduce everyone to is Claire Fullerton. I fell in love with her the moment I saw her. I mean, she's beautiful, right? And she's very kind, and gave me a ton of advice about how to do better at what I was doing. I read her book, Little T, and it's such a fabulous novel. I truly believe that Pat Conroy stopped by Claire's pen and whispered some wisdom into it, because her novels are very exquisitely written, and they're lyrical in nature, like poetry, and I just feel his presence when I read her books. And now Claire has been to Public Queen events before. Unlike the rest of us, we're all virgins.
Not Michelle.
So she's like the madam of the panel. So she decided this time to the Pat Conroy Institute, she was just going to donate cold hard cash. So she's definitely a class act. If you don't know her, she's someone to get to know and to read all of her books. So thank you, Claire. And Diane Zinna, she released her debut novel this year. I couldn't believe it was her first novel. She truly gave me new ways to see the English language. I had to look up words when I was reading her book. And you'll be introduced to her novel, The All Night Sun, tonight or today. And Diane has donated a guidebook to Sweden, which she hand wrote a whole bunch of little interesting facts from the story, even a never before seen letter. So that would be quite exciting if you get the book and want to check that out. So that's what she donated. Laura Kemp's Evening in the Yellow Wood. Oh, wait. Diane Zinna's book was my favorite book from 2020. Woo woo! And Laura Kemp's Evening in the Yellow Wood was my favorite book of 2019. This cross-genre book was just an unstoppable ride. Anyone who's read that could say that. Like, it just went and went and went, and you didn't want to stop reading it. It was a very fun journey. You feel like you fell into a hole and you didn't want to come out until you were finished. The story's based in Michigan. So Laura's based in Michigan, and she donated a haunted lighthouse book So there might be some haunted lighthouses in her book. You never know. And a Petoskey stone. I don't know what that is. I looked it up. It's some kind of fossil thing. Looks like a turtle. And some fun assorted book swag. Thank you for being here today, Laura. And Michelle Cox. Love her to death. She writes wonderful historical fiction novels. She brings you into such a fascinating world in her stories. I'm fighting for the beautiful scarf that she donated because I trust I'm going to look like her main character Henrietta when I wear it. So whoever's fighting me for that scarf, I'm going to win. That's my plan. And we're introducing everyone to her 5th novel in that series. So this is a long series with Henrietta and Inspector Howard. They're all wonderful, but we're introducing a lost child. And then we have Patricia Sands. She's one of my I call her mom. So she's just wonderful. All of her books, she lives in Canada. So she's in another country altogether. She sent me down a rabbit hole in her books about France. And then after I read her books, I had to look up other books that were based in France. I just started falling in love with the country itself. And I fell deeply in love with her characters, as so many people do. People want more and more and more, so she's had to write novellas about these characters. It's quite funny. She has a scarf as well, a Van Gogh scarf with the Van Gogh print, bag, and a sweets tray. Her book is drawing lessons, and it has little whispers of Van Gogh in there. So it perfectly fits her story. I'm bidding on the scarf too. I seem to want it all. So I want to win at least one thing. So bid on a couple, right? And Bettye Lee Crosby of Florida. I've been with Bettye Lee Crosby since like her 3rd book, and she's written 25. She writes books for every single woman, from magical realism, women's fiction. Some have historical fiction. Some take you back in time. Some are present day. I have her entire collection on my bookshelf. I had to replace the bookshelf a couple times because I broke it. But she donated an awesome, huge bag that can hold all 25 books when you buy them and you want to take them on your vacation. So it's perfect. But today we're introducing you to A Million Little Lies, one of her most recent books. And I can't wait till you all hear about our game. Oh, there's 2 more people. Sorry. Mike Eberhart. I use index cards. That's my secret. So Mike Eberhart was the original narrator of this game. He's of Superfun Studios. One of his 2 favorites that he narrated was Project 137, written by Seth Augustine, I'm not sure, and Looking into the Sun by Tog. I can't say his last name. Tog T. Tavaloff. I can't say his last name. I'm sorry, but Looking into the Sun. Mike is a fabulous man. He had us all the way up till about a week ago, working really hard, but he has he caught an illness, so he wasn't able to attend. But we were lucky enough and we are going to miss him so much. So we're doing this in honor of Mike, and I hope he's going to enjoy the show. And Chris Humphreys and Doug, I hope he's here. So I asked Chris Humphreys, another Audible guy, if he would help out, and he's done a whole bunch more Audibles. He's written 20 novels. He's just amazing. He's an actor in like shows that my husband's watched, shows that I watched. It's just amazing. His book, Smoke in the Glass. All the books I mentioned are available at Main Street Reads, so you can get them there. I interviewed him recently for his Tapestry Trilogy books, but this is the book I'm hoping we can get Kathy to read. So I'm totally pushing it because it's an awesome book.
Give me a copy.
Oh, you did? All right, wonderful. I feel like
I sent you one, Kathy.
Oh, okay.
I totally
Not
feel
here.
like a book pusher.
It's okay.
Hi,
I
Chris.
like book pushers. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a book pusher. So thank you for everybody for doing this. So this is how the game's going to go. There's going to be 7 winners. All 7 winners will each win a book for these authors. Chris is going to narrate from a book. This is going to be like speed dating. He's going to narrate from a book. After the narration, you're going to guess which author's book he just narrated. And if we were really away at a Pulpwood Queen event in Jefferson, Texas, or Beaufort, South Carolina, would you buy this book? Like, just say we're going to give you numbers and names of books for you to write. So just tell us, would you name that book? Oh, we also have another giveaway. So we're all wearing these really cool flannel pajamas with books on it. We have a size large to give away. So if you are interested in that, all you have to do is write PJs in the list. Just write PJs in the comment, and you will be in the running to win the PJs. We're hoping we have time to announce the winners today. All right, so let's get started. Chris, you're off.
Fantastic. Okay, the first reading. Of course, I will not tell you the name.
No, don't do that.
Here we go. When I accepted Siri's invitation to travel home with her for the summer, it was like taking her up on a beautiful dare. I can still see her with her backpack, 18 years old, lightly crossing transoms of age and language to make me feel comfortable among her teenage friends. In dreams, Siri leads the way through Gamla Stan's crowded caramel streets, turning to smile at me as I follow behind. Back in the US, before I impulsively accepted her invitation, I had been Siri's teacher. Like the midnight sun that does not set, my decision to go to Sweden with her spread its undying light over everything. My grief was like that too. I fell asleep to it. I awakened to it. In essays, Siri had written about this place imbued with magic, trolls, water spirits, the holiday called Midsummer, when everyone flees the cities for the countryside, when everyone turns young again. Midsummer, when the sun didn't set and night's torments didn't come. Really? She'd agreed. Yes, it was that green, that fresh, that new. Everything would be just thawing out. She wrote about her home back in Sweden. She was an art student. I asked her questions to color in her descriptions of the people she knew, of her country home in Olofstorp, of the tradition she kept with her family. She had a sister with long hair who worked at an airport cleaning planes. She had a brother. She shrugged her town. It's not like here, she said. She missed home, but she didn't know why. I said, put down your pen. Just tell me about it. What colors do you see when you think of home? And then we were there. Lush canvases of wet meadow opened one upon another, bright green oceans that undulated and tipped with the wind like liquid. Did we create that place with our words? I could barely remember the words she used to ask me to come home with her for the summer break. It doesn't seem possible that there were words enough to make me risk the job I loved. Teaching gave my life some aspect of normalcy, and I thought then that it was normalcy I craved. But there had been no hesitation. I bought my ticket that very day. Maybe all those years alone were building to that moment, that invitation to somewhere else. I grasp at early memories of our trip now, and they are otherworldly, other sensory. The purple door of her family's country house. Did it really smell of lavender? I remember our 3 days in Stockholm as sticky and sweet, maybe because we got ice creams from vendors on 3 different corners, one right after the other. I remember sitting there beside the water, trying to talk through bites, laughing because our lips were numb. We shielded our eyes and watched tourists taking banana boat rides out beyond the Viking-style curl-prowed ships in the harbor. And when I think of our talks there, they can sometimes feel like sun in my eyes. We visited many beautiful towns there. I could never pronounce their names right. I couldn't grab hold of the sounds to remember them. With so little English around me, I had the feeling of being,
Hear that?
whoa, sorry, there's some sort of strange sound coming in here. There we go.
It's the Oscar music. Time's
Oh,
up.
okay, that's it. I'm going to wrap up this paragraph.
Okay.
With so little English around me, I had the feeling of being half awake the whole time. In some ways, it was like being a child when you could just close your eyes during a conversation, slide down under a table, and run around. But I was not a child. I was almost 30 then.
That's perfect place to stop. I love that. I love that. Chris, you read that well. Thank you so much. Let's see what people are guessing. Well, Janet Oakley says you're her narrator for her World War II in Norway Audible coming out. So she's here.
I am indeed. It's an amazing book. The Jussing affair. I had to speak Norwegian in it. It was great.
Oh, I love it. Well, Stephen, it's not Patricia Sands. Let's see. It's not Laura Kemp.
We hold up her numbers?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Hold up your numbers and your book. If you don't have your book, if you don't have a big sign behind you.
Like
if you want to take a guess, you can put their numbers in instead of the whole book or their name. You can just put the number. I'm getting some right answers. Let's see. I can't see Claire up there. Are you there?
Yeah.
So great reading. All right. So I'll tell you everyone that's got it right. So of course, Valerie got it right. And then let me see. Eileen Sanchez, Serena Soap, got it right. Go Serena. All right, so let's get to Diane. Diane, tell us more about you and your book.
Hi, everybody. I'm here.
Hi.
Hey, and thank you, Chris, for that beautiful reading. I'm Diane Zinna. My book is The Great Sun. It's the first book, as Annie mentioned, and it's of a transformative female friendship. We all have friends, I think, who have tried when we are going through a period of grief to fix us. And if we're really lucky, we maybe have one friend who just wants to listen and lets us tell our stories. And that's the kind of friendship I wrote about in this book. It's the kind of friendship that I experienced after I lost both of my parents really young. People have asked me if I see myself in the main character of Lauren, and I tell them that whenever Lauren speaks of grief, she is speaking in my voice. Just like Lauren, after the deaths of my parents, I found my own in a new city, barely any money, no other family, and no friends in this big town. And I did have a teaching job at a small college, and it was the best part of my day. It was a lifeline for me. And then into my classroom, into my life, walked this effervescent international student. And that's where my novel begins. In the book, that girl's name is Siri, and she's from Sweden, and she has like X-ray vision. She can see that her teacher, Lauren, is going through it. She's weighed down by grief. And so they form this really deep friendship, bonding over loss. And at the end of the semester, she invites Lauren to come home with her to Sweden for the summer to see the midnight sun, to experience days of all-night golden sunshine, and the holiday called Midsummer. Everyone turns again, and when everyone leaves their midsummer flower crowns, right? And she says everything is going to be green and fresh and new, just thawing out. And this feels irresistible to Lauren. It feels like an invitation back in time, to a time before grief. So she risks everything to go. And those first few days are magical there. The sun dripping off of the trees, otherworldly beauty every place they travel. They scroll notes in their guidebook of every place that they visit, and it feels like they're writing a fairy tale story. But soon, Lauren starts to fall into old habits and she falls for Siri's handsome artist brother, Magnus. And that drives a wedge in their friendship that causes so many things to unravel. What's left after an unraveling? When I went with my Siri to Sweden in the year 2000, everything was perfect. But I returned wondering, what if time when I was fragile emotionally, everything had gone wrong. And that is this novel. And I wanted to show a friendship that was so strong and meaningful that it could come back from anything. And I hope that I did this with this book of my heart. I hope that you'll read it, and I hope that you'll share it with a friend who has made a difference in your life. Thank you so much, Public Queens.
Thank you so much. I love your book. Everybody get this book. You can get it at Main Street Reads. So go grab it. And also, you sent in the, what are they called?
Book
You
plates.
signed book plates.
Yeah. So
You
all
signed
the
book
books
plates.
at Main Street are signed. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a discount. I think they ship free if you order over a certain amount of books. So that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you joining us today, Diane.
Thank you, Amy. You're the best.
You are. All right, Chris, you're up. Thank you so much, everybody that guessed.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. It's like a Verizon commercial. Can you hear
There
me
we
now?
go. Get your phone here. Okay. The train pulled into the Avignon TGV station precisely on time. A gust of surprisingly warm air welcomed Ariana as she stepped onto the platform. Her eye immediately caught the sign, Madame Miller, on the other side of the gate, held by a young man, fashionably but casually dressed. He had the classic look of a young Hugo Boss model, with light stubble, thick brown hair, finger combed off his face, and aviator sunglasses. When Ariana raised her hand in acknowledgement, he moved quickly to greet her with a warm smile as he took her suitcase. They walked toward the reserved parking area. Bienvenue, madame. I am Jean-Marc, and I work for Madame La Chapelle. Sorry about the security. Things have changed in France during the past year. A spark of pleasure tingled through Ariana at the sound of his charming accent, in spite of his serious words. His face shone with the confidence of youth, and his voice conveyed a genuine welcome. Bonjour, Jean-Marc. I understand about the security. We have it in Canada, too. I'm happy to meet you, and I look forward to meeting Madame La Chapelle. The Musée des Artistes looks wonderful on the website. He nodded, smiling as he held the back door of the car open. Oui, it is very calm and serene, just like Madame Juliette, the proprietor. Ariana sighed as she settled against the dark blue leather seat. She tucked her hair behind her ears and put on her sunglasses. As the car exited the busy parking lot, Jean-Marc asked, Did you have a fine voyage, madame? She smiled at his lovely manners, so typically European. She recalled a bittersweet memory of Greece. Yes, thank you. It was long, but enjoyable. There is bottled water for you. Please help yourself. Would you like me to tell you something about the area as we drive through? It will take us a half hour to arrive at the property. I would like that very much, Ariana said, hoping she wouldn't fall asleep as he spoke. She calculated that she had been up for 27 hours at that point, with a 5-hour sleep on the plane that barely counted. We are in a kind of a very secret part of Provence, Les Alpilles. It means small Alps. To many of us, we say this area is the true Provence. The passing countryside, topped by a deep cobalt blue sky, was filled with quiet olive orchards and stately vineyards. Fruit trees had dropped their blossoms and were busy producing this season's harvests. Cherries, Ariana hoped. Well-planted fields had already begun offering up their bounty. The car passed many handwritten signs advertising asparagus. Ariana noted with pleasure some little unattended stands with a box for honest pavement. Soon, les fraises, strawberries, Jean-Marc interjected into the quiet. The most delicious in France, he chuckled. Ariana noticed that most houses had their own potager, close by small kitchen gardens. Ben often said they provided the true origins of French cuisine. Ben. There was a sharp pang of sorrow in the thought, but even more she felt regret. He would have loved this. She had known Ben would be with her in spirit on this journey, and she had vowed to make that a positive, to do him proud. This trip was not to be about sadness. She remembered how Faith had hugged her at the airport and whispered, "Let the sadness go, Mama, let it go. Reach for that light in Provence." Ariana squeezed her eyes tightly shut for a moment. Then she took a deep breath and turned her attention back to the passing scenery. How's that? Thank you. Thank you. Lovely, lovely piece.
Okay, well, I think people should guess, but I mean, like, that's kind of a joke because I think people, I don't think anyone got this wrong. So everyone knows it's Patricia's book because of her smile while you were reading, Chris. You did such a wonderful job. You had the author grinning from ear to ear. She's glowing. She's glowing. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. We got all right answers. That's great. I love it. This is wonderful. So thank you so much. That was already guessed. So Patricia, it's your turn. Tell us about you or the book, whatever you want to share with us.
Great. All right. First of all, I'll just give a little wave of my French flag that
You're bringing it home.
always sits on my desk. And of course, I've got my beret on, but I do have my crown on top, my tiara on top. It's just with this background, you can't always see it. So Chris, thank you. You were bringing tears to my eyes, really.
It was wonderful.
I want you to, I'd like to get in touch with you and just sit and have you read the entire book to me, please. And then I have a couple of others too.
Yeah, I'm available at very discretionary rates for beautiful women like yourself, Patricia.
New
Well,
client.
Okay, I will not pretend. I have my cheat sheets here to talk about my book, because if I don't, I am the queen of digression. And I could just go on and on about everything. So Annie, I did time this, but you know, play the Academy Award music. Which
I just think that's funny. Laura and I were like, this is Academy Award music.
So just let me share this with you. So writing Drawing Lessons, which is my 5th novel, gave me another opportunity to take readers to France, which is my favorite thing to do. I first fell in love with France when I was 21, backpacking through Europe after university. Fast forward many years, that included several return trips, and just continued to develop the love that I had, the passion that I have for the country, the people, the culture, the language, everything. And so for the past 20 years, my husband and I have spent several months each year in the south of France, often through home exchange, but that's another conversation. Although I do have one of my characters in another book go there on a home exchange. And I love talking about home exchange anytime. So my other France-related stories are set on the sun-kissed Côte d'Azur and in the lavender fields of Provence. Drawing Lessons is set in a slightly different area in the absolutely enchanting town of Arles, and also the area just south of Arles, the unique UNESCO biosphere of the Camargue. It's the part of France, Arles and the Camargue is an area in France where Van Gogh spent most of his last few prolific years, a year in Arles and then a year in Saint-Remy de Provence at a monastery, and creating over 300 paintings during that time. And his spirit absolutely surrounds you in this area. I've spent a lot of time in Arles and spent a concentrated 3 weeks researching this story. My protagonists are mature women in all my novels who are facing change in one way or another. I hope that my stories encourage readers to push the fear factor out of their lives and believe in themselves. It's never too late to begin again is an ongoing theme. After all, I didn't begin writing until I was in my 60s, so I can attest to that. I like to say that retirement is really rewirement. I don't know where I read that, but I love it and I use it all the time. So in drawing lessons for well over a year, Ariana's beloved husband, Ben, had lived in full-time care with frontal lobe dementia. It's a bit of a sad beginning to the story. He does not know anyone, and even though Ariana goes to visit him every day, she cannot even hold his hand as he reacts badly to touch. I interviewed several women who had lived through this kind of experience while I was developing Ariana's character. And the more I talked to them, the more committed I felt to sharing this part of life at a certain age and real experiences that people do go through. So family, friends, and even her doctor had encouraged Ariana to keep living her life. Finally, she agrees to attend a 2-week artist workshop at a centuries-old farmhouse in the countryside outside of Arles. She had always been an artist and worked as an art historian at the Art Gallery of Ontario before she and Ben had to take over running her parents' Greek restaurant in Toronto. Now she would try to rediscover her talent and love of art. As the 8 people taking the course, along with the warm and welcoming hostess, Juliette, and her equally charming husband, Maurice, who was also a fine chef, as they spend time together, their individual stories are shared and they all learn something about life from each other. They spend a lot of time laughing and chatting as they explore the charming towns and hilltop villages around them. There are serious moments too, as more personal stories unfold, tears are shed, hands are held. Thank you, Kathy. Every moment is not a feel-good moment. There's conflict and uncertainties to be worked out. This is life. There's also an opinionated cat called Maximus who establishes his personality and offers many psychological assisted moments. I like to add dogs and cats to my stories, and it's been fun to see them become beloved characters with my readers. I love to celebrate friendship, and this particular story shows how close friendships can develop quickly when people spend day after day together. Of course, there are some false first impressions and quick judgments at times, as there are in life. And these are proven incorrect as characters open up and show their true personalities. I love to have my readers feel they've gone on a trip to France in every way. Location is an important character in my writing, and food plays a big part too. As well as Arles, the story also takes you to the Camargue, as I mentioned, just a half hour away. And a guest speaker from the Camargue comes to the farmhouse to change the course of this story. What a guest speaker he is. Jacques de Villeneuve is an acclaimed artist and also a French cowboy, a gardien, who works with the semi-wild white horses and the black bulls on the ranches in the Camargue. He invites everyone in the group to spend a day exploring the very different culture there. And, well, I'll let you read the story to see how his connection to Ariana evolves. I'm excited to share that I've just had a new trailer created for this novel, and the picture chosen for Jacques de Villeneuve by the woman who worked on the trailer is better than I ever could have imagined. It's one of those oh la la moments when you see the trailer. It's really fun. And it'll be live on YouTube on Monday. So I hope you will take a look at it. And also my trailer for the Love in Provence series is there, which is a best-selling trilogy that spawned a series of novellas. As a result of my Provence books, I was invited to develop a tour for women based on the stories. And for the last 7 years, sadly not 2020 and probably not 2021, I've led a 12-day tour for 16 women in the south of France that has been an absolutely wonderful experience, something that I never imagined happening through my writing. Every year, the women become great friends and no one wants to go home when the tour ends. And it happens year after year. one of my best friends who happens to live in France most of the time co-leads with me, and we absolutely love doing these tours. Such a pleasure to be here now at the Pulp of Queens with so many great authors, having good fun and sharing our work and experiences. Kathy, thank you so much for inviting us. Annie, thank you for inviting me to be on the panel. You are just the best connector of people, and you do so much for readers and writers. It's an honor to be involved with all of this. If you have time, and of course this is really for readers who we hope are here and watching, drop by Blue Sky Book Chat on Facebook, where you'll find Bettye Lee Crosby and me, as well as Marilyn Simon Rothstein and Barbara Davis and 6 other author friends. We would love to have you join us. And remember that all our books are available at the wonderful Main Street Reads Bookshop. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't go over my time.
No.
And again, thanks, Chris. That was really fun to hear you read that. And I must say, a great improvement over the narrator who actually did the Audible. Maybe I
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. I'm obviously sorry to hear that, but you'll know better next time. And you have my contact details.
Chris,
Okay.
you're going to be real busy.
I think so.
So wonderful. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Patricia.
Pleasure.
Okay, Chris, on to the next book. I love this. So much fun. Now, if you guys, if you've read the book and you know the book, don't say the book. Let people guess that don't know the book. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are
It
we
just
ready?
go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Susanna felt her heart hammering against her chest as they walked along Main Street. A million questions raced through her mind, and she didn't have the answer to even one. Yes, they needed to talk, but not here, not in a town where people knew her and would start to wonder who the stranger was. She suggested a restaurant out on the highway. I'm guessing you don't want people to overhear our conversation. He grinned and opened the door to a big black Lincoln. Once she was seated inside, he circled around and slid behind the wheel. As soon as they pulled away from the curb, he glanced over and said, "Looks like you've been keeping a whole lot of secrets, huh, Susanna?" He was the same as she remembered, so sure of himself, tossing out a grin that already felt far too intimate. "Why are you here, Bobby? How did you find me?" "Susanna, honey, you make it sound like a bad thing. It's not. I've still got feelings." "Really?" Her voice was thick with sarcasm. "After not giving a crap for 8 years, now you've decided you've got feelings? That's not fair. I tried to get in touch. I went to your house looking for you, not just once, but a number of times. You know what happened? Your old man told me you were gone. That's it, just gone. No message, nothing. He wouldn't say where to find you, just get out of his house. That was it. You think it was easy, Susanna, not knowing? Stop calling me Susanna." "Yeah, right." He gave her a slant-eyed look of cynicism. "I almost forgot you've got yourself a new name. And from what I hear, a grandma who never before existed. Clue me in, Darla Jean. What exactly are you up to?" "Not what you think, Bobby. Mrs. Parker mistook me for her granddaughter, and I..." Her voice faltered, and she turned to face toward the window. You what? Saw a golden opportunity and decided to cash in on it? Is that really what you think of me?" She didn't turn or look back. They drove in silence until he pulled into a parking space at the Pig and Pint. After the engine was switched off, he reached across the seat and touched his hand to the back of her neck. "Look, Susanna, I'm not here to hurt you. I came because I've never forgotten that night. I've regretted it 1,000 times over, but with not knowing where you were, there was nothing I could do about it. I had no way to make things right. His words were so sincere, his touch so familiar. In an odd way, it seemed as though no time had passed since they were last together. They stepped out of the car, and Susanna offered no resistance as they walked into the restaurant, his hand on the small of her back, steering her toward a booth behind the bar. After the drinks were ordered, they began to talk. Bobby explained how his brother had been at the fashion show. You probably didn't recognize Eddie, he said. He's gained weight and now has a beard. I guess we've all changed, Susanna said wistfully. She looked into his eyes, remembering how, over the years, she'd wished for this moment so many times. She'd imagined 1,000 different ways, but never quite like this. I have a good life now, someone I care for, a beautiful little daughter. He nodded, then reached across the table, taking her hand in his. Eddie told me. She's our child, isn't she? Susanna hesitated a long time before she answered. She could say no, end it here and now, and hold on to the life she'd built. It was a good life, the life she'd dreamt of having. Telling the truth would complicate things. Once Bobby knew, the others would find out, and it would be like opening up Pandora's box. The lies would come tumbling out, one atop the other, destroying everything she'd worked so hard to build. She'd be branded a liar, and the people she loved would turn away with a look of disappointment or, worse yet, disgust. She would no longer be Darla Jean Parker. She'd lose the grandmother she'd come to love, and Greg also, maybe even her job. Once she opened that door, there would be no closing it. The word no lingered on her tongue for several minutes, but it never came out. This wasn't about her. It was about Annie. Good or bad, she deserved to know her father. Susanna gave a weary sigh, one weighted with the knowledge of all she was risking. Yes, Annie is our daughter, she said, but she knows nothing of you or the circumstances of her birth. She continued on, explaining how, with no place else to go, she'd moved in with Earl. He was good to me when I needed somebody to lean on, but he was never good to Annie. He barely tolerated her. Last summer, I finally realized he was little more than a carbon copy of my daddy, and I wanted something better for our daughter. She went on to tell of Earl's drinking, the subsequent abusiveness, and how one morning she and Annie left, hitched a ride, and landed in Cousins, Georgia. As she spoke, a pained look settled on Bobby's face. I'm sorry, I had no idea. That's not true, Bobby. You knew I was carrying your child and you turned away. When we passed one another in the hallways, you looked the other way and started laughing it up with your buddies. I wanted to be there for graduation, but I couldn't stand the shame, so I stopped going to school. A week later, my daddy told me to get out. Ooh.
We're out of time.
Is that the music? Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's good. Thank you. Lovely piece to read. Thank you.
I mean, that's so wonderful. Oh my God. Everyone's texting me going, I love this writing. I love it. I love it. And you're so wonderful at this, Chris. You know, I just want to point out that one of the reasons Mike Eberhardt and I came up with this game is that there's always this question going around. Is it really reading when you're listening to an Audible? And I'm a firm believer in any way you read the book, whether you're listening to it, you're reading it in Braille, you're reading it in print, you're reading it on your Kindle. Any way you are getting the author's words, you're reading the book. So we decided to do this together to promote what everyone's doing, the books, the Audible. So thank you so much for showing everybody how it can bring the story to life for us. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. A lot of people think it's Laura Kemp's book, which is Evening in the Yellow Woods. Little T. Nobody got it right. So, well, maybe. Oh, wait, one person got it right. But I know why she got it right. Is there anybody that wants to just tell me, are there people that really loved the reading and would just go buy it and take it back to their hotel. You could win that way too. So let's just keep moving. Betty, go ahead and tell us about your book. It's Bettye Lee Crosby's book, which Marilyn Simon Rothstein guessed because they're on Blue Sky Book Chat together, right? They're pals, they're good friends. It's a wonderful book club. And thank you, Chris. And take it away, Betty.
A Million Little Lies is a story about just that. A million little lies. Susanna, excuse me, Susanna Duff started telling lies when she was only 10 years old after her mama died. Her mama died and she was left with a daddy who was a drunkard. So she lied to cover up an ugly home life and a miserable existence. The problem was, as time moved on, her lies got bigger and better. And now that she's a grown woman with a daughter of her own, and she's found a way to give her daughter a life that she never had, she's going to have to live with the biggest lie of them all. This story began as a case of mistaken identity. And it's sort of a study in what you can do when someone mistakes you for someone else and there's no way to get out of it gracefully. You know what you do? You go along. And the reason I can say that is because it actually happened to me. All of my stories have some thread that links back to something I've experienced or come across in my own life. And a colleague and I, the story is, a colleague and I were attending a giftware industry breakfast at the Plaza Hotel in New York, and we were running late. We got to the hotel seconds before they closed the door. And as we rushed in, the hostess at the door said, "Are you the marketing director?" And I said, "Yes, because I am." And so they lead us over to the head table, sit us down. We get this scrumptious breakfast of eggs Benedict, fruit, everything. And I'm looking around, and as we're sitting there, I'm looking around, and I'm not seeing anyone from the industry that I usually see at these meetings. So the lights go down, and the presentation video starts, and it's not giftware, it's Maidenform bras. And we're in the wrong meeting. And we sat there and we ate their breakfast and everything. So it was kind of impossible at that point just to say, "Oh, sorry about this, I'm the wrong marketing director." So we sat and talked casually and nodded and smiled a lot, you know, when we had no idea what they were talking about. And then when it was a coffee break time, we darted out of there as quickly as we could. But it's not always easy to do. So that's kind of where I came from on the story. Well, Susanna did just as I did when she was mistaken for Annie's missing granddaughter. She thought she could stay and muddle through the luncheon, you know, make it through and then make her getaway. But one thing led to another. And just as in all Southern stories, things just never go as you expect they would. And now that she'd stumbled into a life that she really loved, it was the life that she'd always wanted and wanted for her daughter, she realized that the past is here and it's really ready to come up and ruin everything she's worked for. I've lost my accent now, but I come from a family of Southerners and I write in a Southern voice. And so with Southerners, telling stories is part of our heritage. And each time we tell a story, it gets bigger and better. My stories are almost always about ordinary people caught up in extraordinary circumstances. So they're people that you can identify as a friend or a neighbor or someone that you've gone through something that the same thing. And they're dealing with it in a different way, perhaps. I understand Susanna's life going opposite from what she thought because I'm a perfect example of life not going the way you expected. I never planned to become a novelist. I thought I was on my way to being a graphic designer. That's what I studied. My degree was in fine art. My first job was on the drawing board, and it was at a soft goods packaging company. I had the designs all ready and showed them to salesmen, and salesmen are notorious for not liking detail work. They sell, they don't do detail. So when I said to him, "Sir, excuse me, I need some copy for the back of this package." I was a kid just out of college. He looks at me like I've asked him to lasso the moon, and he says, make something up, kid. Whatever you make is okay. Whatever you say is okay with me. So I did. I mean, I was young. What did I know? So I made up some copy for the back and told how wonderful the pantyhose were. Did that for a while. And then they said, hey, you're pretty good at this. You want to write the company newsletter? So I said, oh, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So I started writing the company newsletter. And little by little, I just worked my way up. And pretty soon I wasn't on the drawing board anymore. I was in marketing. And then I went up to being a vice president of marketing and bopped around a few different jobs, wrote copy and designed and, just everything. And I've always been very lucky in that I enjoyed what I did. And it was always a job that I really enjoyed. But writing copy for business and writing fiction are very, very different. And there was a steep learning curve there. I've got 3 novels that I never published that I felt they weren't really good enough to publish. So I always say that writing for business is all about the destination, get to the point and get there quickly. Writing fiction is all about the journey that you're taking. So I suppose at some point I was always destined to be a storyteller, but I never imagined I'd be a USA Today bestselling author.
Bettye, time's up, but so we have to end it with telling everybody how many awards you've won.
40.
40.
I would just like to say, like Susanna, my life didn't go exactly as I planned, but it turned out better than I could have ever wished for.
You do have a wonderful life with your husband's wonderful, your dog, and you're so good to your friends like me. So thank you. And thanks for being here, Bettye.
My pleasure.
Okay, I'm sorry to cut it short. We're running out of time. Okay, so Chris is next.
Can you hear me? Here we go. Hey, little T, Hayward called as she and I sat Indian style on the north side of the veranda. It was a Saturday afternoon in early June, and we'd spread the church section of the Como Panoleon beneath us and positioned ourselves beneath one of the pair of box windows gracing either side of the front door. The front door was fully open, but its screen was latched to keep the bugs from funneling into the entrance hall. They'd be born from the current of the veranda fans that stirred a humidity so pervasive and wilting there was no escaping until the weather cooled in early November. The glass pitcher of sweet tea Elvita gave us sat opaque and sweating. Its condensation reduced crescents of ice to weak smiles bobbing around a flaccid slice of lemon. I bet I can beat you to the mailbox and back, Hayward challenged. Little T stood to her full height, her hand on her hip, her eyes oval and narrowed. Go on with yourself, she said to Hayward, which was her rote way of dismissal. I bet I can, Hayward pressed. Hayward had his dog with him, a 2-year-old red-bone coonhound named Rufus, who shadowed him everywhere. Little T took a mighty step forward. And you best get that dog out of here, for he upends this here paint. Miss Shirley gonna be pitching a fit you get paint on her veranda. Then come race me, Hayward persisted. He'll follow me down the driveway. You just don't want to race because I beat you the last time. You beat me because you a cheat, Little T snapped. I ventured to insinuate myself into the dynamic. She's right, Hayward. You took off first. I saw you. It's not my fault she's slow on the trigger, Hayward said. Little T hesitated. I just took the advantage. Little T walked down the 4 brick steps to where Hayward and Rufus stood. I'll be taking advantage now, she stated. At 10 years old, Little T was taller than me and almost as tall as Hayward. She had long, supple limbs whose elegance belied their dependable strength, and a way of walking from an exaggerated lift of the knees that never disturbed her steady carriage. She was regal at every well-defined angle, with shoulders spanning twice the width of her waist, and a swan neck showcasing her determined jaw. Hayward bounced on the balls of his feet, every inch of his lithe body coiled and ready to spring. There was no refusing Hayward's smile, and he knew it. It was a 1,000-watt pirate smile that, when flashed, could create a domino effect of contagion through a crowd. I'd seen the influence of Hayward's smile change the most resistant of moods. There was no turning away from its winsome, white-toothed source. It seemed that when Hayward smiled, he issued an invitation to the whole world to get the joke, and typically, people would. "Celia, run fetch us a stick," Little T directed. Her feet scratched through the gravel in front of the house as she marched across it to the dusty quarter-mile lane that led from the house to the mailbox on Old Panola Road. I sprang from the veranda to the grass on the other side of the lane and broke a long, sturdy twig from an oak branch. "Set it right there," Little T pointed, and I placed it horizontally before her. But Rufus rushed upon the stick and brought it straight to Hayward, who rubbed his russet head and praised. "Good boy." "Even that dog of yours is cheap," Little T said, but she too rubbed Rufus's head, then replaced the stick on the ground. "Now come stand behind here. Celia's going to give us a fair shake. We'll run when she says run. Now, what you going to give me when I win?" "The reward of pride and satisfaction," Hayward said. And just then, the screen door on the veranda flew open and my brother John came sauntering out. "On go," I said, from my position on the side of the lane, where I hawkishly monitored the stick to catch any foot that might
Chris,
creep
time is
forward.
up.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay,
We only have like 25 minutes left, so
okay, cool.
I'm sorry we had a late start. All right. So let's see. Everybody's guessing is Little T by Claire Fullerton. I love how you did the accents.
Oh.
And your face, you're totally acting it out. So Claire
I'm an actor, what can I
Fullerton,
say?
you are. You're a great actor. So Claire Fullerton, tell us about you and Little T.
Thank you so much, Annie. I'm so pleased to be here with you and your 1,000-watt smile. Every time you smile, I literally can't take it. And Kathy Murphy, heartfelt gratitude to you as well. What a pleasure to be here last year and the year before in person. Kathy, I'm telling you, this is just as good and just as fun. So thank you. And Chris, you divine creature, I tip my hat to you. You are unbelievable. Thank you so much for reading that action scene from Little T. And I did want the reader to meet Little T, whose real name is Thelonious Winfrey. I wanted them to meet her out of the gate in action. I wanted the reader to meet primarily her attitude. And so Little T is written in 2 time frames. Celia Wakefield, the narrator, has received a phone call to fly from California down south to visit with 2 of her childhood friends. They're now in their 40s. They all met when they were 12. And the reason why is one of the girlfriends is on the fence about her 22-year-old marriage. She thinks she married too young. They've grown up, they've grown apart. And what is she doing with this man? She's got nothing in common. And she's drinking too much. So the other 2 friends say, we're going to the lake in Heber Springs, Arkansas. We're going to spend a weekend with our friend and we're going to sort out her life. And I love the idea of 2 things. If you take one problem and you put it in the hands of 3 different women to solve, I love the dialogue and the banter and the measuring and the personalities that come to the fore and go back and forth, because women and the magic of their friendships, especially the ones with longevity, the sincerity there is remarkable, astounding to me. I have always wanted to celebrate the honesty and female friendships that have lasted over decades, perhaps, because you get to the point when you would do anything for your friend. And to solve their dilemma, you take it on as your own. I have loved that. I have noticed it in my through the years with my female friendships. That said, I have the ability as a human being, it's either the actor's eye or it's the writer's eye, that ability to stand apart from what's happening, even when you're in dialogue with your friends. It's a separation of sorts, not necessarily a voyeuristic view, but it tinges on it. And for me, I've thought about this ability of mine, and I have arrived at the conclusion that I do it out of love and out of celebration and out of admiration and just awestruck wonder over just how wonderful and sage-like, wise women can be when they get together. So the story of Little T, it started out being about the female friendships. I really wanted to capture the way women speak, you know, the shared history, that's the backdrop, the shared sense of humor. When women have each other's number because they have each other's history, they know about the family, they know everything. And you get to the point where you don't have to say more than half of a sentence and your friends know what you're talking about. They know where it's going. I like the idea of that. And in so writing Little T that way, Little T wasn't invented until page 25 when I said, oh, I should let the reader know about the narrator's background, about Celia Wakefield's background. And I started saying, okay, so how did she grow up? She grew up in the Deep South. Let's put her in Como, Mississippi. Let's put her on 320 acres of a third generation farm called the Wakefield Plantation, which we no longer use the word plantation in this day and age, but they do raise soybean and cotton there. And I envisioned this entire world of how Celia grew up. And I said, now who is living on that property? They have to have a caretaker, and he's Black. What's his family like? Let's name him Thelonious. Okay, so Thelonious has a wife, her name's Elvita. Do they have a child? Yes, they do. Her name's Thelonia. She's named after her father. Southerners, they always have a nickname. Everybody calls her Little T. And that is how the story of Little T came about. And what I tell people to be, brief is to say, Little T is about Southern culture, female friendships, racial tension in the Deep South, family tragedy, that's in there, and healing the past, our histories. How do we get them in a manageable space? Because we all have tumultuous history somewhere in the background. You live long enough, you will have it. It won't go away. So the question becomes, how do we manage it? How do we reconcile
Claire,
our past?
I'm sorry, we're running out of time. We only have 20 minutes to go and a couple books more to go.
Okay.
But what I'm going to have to do is have everybody back on either the Write Review or the Second Line show, and everybody could talk all they want. So I'm so sorry, but thank you so much. Everyone loves your prose, how you write. Joe Palmer was spellbound. Coming from another author, that's pretty cool.
It is.
Your words on long friendships of women ring so true. And Marilyn Simon Rothstein just ordered your book.
How wonderful. Thank you, Annie.
So this is great. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to cut you short. Okay, Chris, you're up again. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. A woman slid from behind the black curtain and said in a deep, throaty voice, "I have been expecting you." Henrietta gripped Clive's arm a little tighter and hoped her fear didn't show as she beheld the woman in front of them now. She was perhaps of middle age, which was younger than Henrietta had expected, and certainly more attractive. She was a buxom woman, very curvaceous, not fat exactly, but certainly not thin. She wore her weight attractively, and her turquoise dress clung to her curves nicely. Behind her flowed a turquoise sort of cape that seemed part of the dress itself, and a silver turban sat on top of her long, frizzy black hair. Her eyes were big and blue, almost purple, and she easily filled the room with her magnetic presence. Henrietta could not help but stare at her. She was not what she had been expecting at all. She thought they would encounter some sort of wizened witch, not a buxom, attractive woman. "Yes, I'm sure you were," Clive responded matter-of-factly. Look, we'd like to ask you a few questions. Many do, she said with a slight Slavic sort of accent. You seek something, no? Listen, we're not here for all this mumbo-jumbo, Clive said frankly, waving his hat around the room. We're here to ask some serious questions. Madame Pavlovsky let out a guttural sort of laugh. Is that what you call it? Mumbo-jumbo, she pronounced deliberately. Come, she said, waving her hand at the cushions on the floor. Sit, and we will hear these serious questions. All questions are serious. Clive looked skeptically at the pillows on the floor and instead led Henrietta to the sagging sofa while Madame Pavlovsky made a show of elegantly positioning herself on a chair in the center of the room, facing them. It was an old-fashioned sort of winged chair, the upholstery of which was oddly covered in a type of purple velvet fabric. The chair itself sat on a little wooden riser, which gave it the distinct flavor of being a sort of throne. Now, what is it you wish to know? Madame Pavlovsky asked in a grave tone, her hands forming a triangle with her fingertips lightly touching each other.
Chris, time's up.
Oh!
I'm so sorry. Is it something good coming up? Go ahead. Something better?
What? No, it's great. It's just, I was just getting it. I'm Madame Pavlovsky. I love her. I want to play.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is killing me that we only have 20 minutes to go, or less than that now. I'm sorry. I mean, we did have everything timed very well, but I'm so sorry. Okay, so everyone loves you, Chris. Every woman here wants you to read them to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I'll book the flights.
Wonderful. So, yeah, everyone's guessing that it's Michelle's book. So, Michelle, go ahead, get started. And we have to shorten your talk. I'm sorry. Let's go. Here we go. Michelle?
Sorry. Thanks, Chris. That was amazing. It's always fun for the author to hear your work read aloud, and you just did it brilliantly. I mean, I could listen to it all day. So thank you. Thank you, Annie, for letting me be on this panel. I'm so excited. It's great to be here. So I know I don't have a lot of time, so I'll just say that a lot of people usually ask me about the research that goes into the series. And, you know, the short answer is, yeah, I do all the usual online archives and I go to see some of the places that I put in the books, but really most of my details, most of my inspiration is actually from meeting real people. So I used to work in a nursing home. I think I've told that story before, but what a lot of people don't know is that before that, I worked in a different nursing home. That was a nursing home for nuns. I was 16, yeah, very innocent. And that was before the days of like activity departments and social service departments. So there was really nothing for these poor women to do. So after I got them their breakfast every day and got them dressed and all their toiletries done, I would, okay, so this is a secret and don't tell anybody, but I would go into their closet and I would dress up like a nun. And they were so thrilled and delighted that I dressed like one of them. And I would get them all arranged in front of me and I would make up trivia questions for them all afternoon. And it was almost like playing school, and they loved it and it was a thrill. And I don't know, I just thought I would share that with you. I use a lot of those types of details in my stories. So there you go. Thank you for letting me be here.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate it. Everybody just needs to know she has some sleuths going on in her books, and they're historical fiction. So definitely check out her links. The links for everybody is over in the comments. Okay, Chris, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, and did you want me to read these next two back to back? Was that the
Well,
idea?
we'll take a break so we know we're going into the next book. We're going to read 6 and 7 together, so you guys don't like have only one book left and you know what it is.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
A commotion outside on the porch caught my attention. I was just getting ready to heed Mallard's advice and lock the door when 3 burly men stomped in. One was short and wore a John Deere trucker's hat. The other 2 were big and ugly and wore gray shirts stained with a strange substance that looked like a mixture of grease, chewing tobacco, and sweat. The biggest one took a seat on the corner stool and ordered a beer. The other 2 waited until he'd gotten it before ordering their own, making it clear who wore the pants in their dysfunctional family. "You the new barmaid?" the big one asked while spreading his hands on the bar, and I was shocked to see 8 full fingers and 2 stumps. "Yep," I tried to sound confident, cheery even, and failed in that regard. "I've heard about you, Tootsie." Following my stare, he said, "Pulled him off in an oil drill." Then his gaze sweeping to Iris. "Shouldn't you be in bed by now?" She only smiled. "What I do in bed is none of your business." I grimaced, but John Deere just laughed, adjusting his hat as he did so. "That's so, Grandma." Iris smiled again, her face a mask of complacency. "That's so." He shrugged, perhaps impressed with her pluck, and ordered another beer. I jumped up and immediately honored his request, all the while searching Iris's eyes for some sort of assurance that I'd end my shift in one piece, but she wouldn't meet my gaze. Should I call Mallard? These 3 certainly fit the bill where assholes were concerned, but I wasn't sure how to get away without attracting attention, and they wanted lots of it. Their first round gone, the trio seemed in no hurry to leave. They lit up, ordered Pabst Blue Ribbon like it was going out of style, and told dirty jokes that featured a bevy of dumb blondes. As the second hand inched past 2, I began to feel the first stab of fear. "Last call, guys," I said while eyeing the clock. "Give me a fucking break," Stumpy grumbled while getting up to saunter toward the jukebox. Once there, he made his selection and shuffled back via Gordon Lightfoot. "I know you've got that clock set to bar time." "What's your point?" I asked, wondering where I suddenly got my courage, remembering how mad Jamie had made me that afternoon. "You got quite the mouth on you, Tootsie." Stumpy.
Time's up, Chris. I'm sorry. And we didn't even get to the craziness.
Oh,
I'm
that's so good.
Next
I know he reads it so well.
Well done, Chris.
So everyone's going back and forth between Laura and Nola. It's Laura.
Oh!
I'm sorry. I've been drinking. I'm just kidding. I don't drink. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Okay, Chris, read the next book. For 3, you can read it for 3 minutes. We're really closing in here. Sorry, Nola.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Officers responding to the cries for help had soon raced back out of the house to vomit and collect themselves. Even with all the bizarre and violent crimes in the history of New Orleans, the sight that met them in the Cheval house still shook them to their core. Gas lamps were turned low to ease the shock of the scene, but all that was accomplished was to create eerie dancing shadows that intensified the supernatural sight. Preferring to leave the investigation of the body to Father Antoine, the police focused their efforts on the exterior of the house, looking for answers they would never find. Silent prayers followed the cleric up the stairs. With each step, the leaden weight of grief made his feet harder to lift. By the time he stood on the threshold, Father Antoine's body was as weary as his heart. Even the priest drew back and cursed at the sight of Julien Cheval's corpse. Lingering a moment in the doorway, he mouthed a prayer, taking a slow breath to steel himself for the gruesome task at hand. He took a cautious step closer. Father Antoine performed last rites for hundreds, watching the light of life flicker and fade, leaving only an empty shell where a soul had been. So many times he'd been called to bless a body found cold and dead, never flinching from the task. This was different. This was unnatural. Father Antoine crossed himself several times and held tight to the crucifix on the end of his rosary as he approached the dead man's bedside. Standing several feet away, the priest tried not to think of the man who sat in Mass only days before. He tried not to picture the strong, elegant gentleman bowing his silver-streaked head in prayer next to his equally striking daughter. The image of that man, in contrast to the horror before him, was almost more than the cleric could bear. Instead, he tried to distance himself from the memory of the man he knew and focus on the mystery before him. Behind the netting and in the flickering shadows of the gaslights, Father Antoine could see little in the way of blood staining on the bed sheets. There were spattered drops on the pillow, but nothing else. It wasn't just the blood was missing either. He realized that all the fluids that should have been in the body were unaccounted for. Father Antoine took a step closer to the bed and noticed something else, or rather the absence of something. There was no sickly, sweet stench of death in the room. Instead, there was a faint scent of an earthy herb he could not quite place. In all the gruesomeness, there was a fragrance that was almost fresh and clean. Sage, he murmured to himself.
Chris, time's up.
Oh, let me just say the last sentence.
All right,
Sage,
sorry.
Sage, he murmured to himself as it dawned on him what the herb was. So sorry, I just wanted.
I love that look. I love that look. I love that look.
Had to get to that.
I mean, I'm trying so hard, but they have 6 minutes to talk to. Thank you so much. So
Pleasure.
I totally, you are amazing, Chris. Just amazing. I'm glad everybody has your information to get in touch with you. But so the first book, I already gave it away, was Laura Kemp's book. So here we go, Laura Kemp. Elevator speech time, lady.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Woo woo!
Okay, Annie and I always get really riled up when we're together, so we're going to try to keep a lid on it. Thank you, Chris, for reading. That was wonderful. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to try to go quick. I'm Laura Kemp. I'm from Michigan. In Michigan, we say where we are on our hand. I live here. My book takes place up here, and it's based on a real summer that I spent up north hanging out. And obviously, all the crazy paranormal things that happened in this book did not happen to me. But everybody, every character, even the bartender Mallard, is based on a real person, pretty much. And all of the places are real. And I have a street team on Facebook that is very, very active. And I do a lot of fun stuff on there called Kemp Camp. So if you want to learn more about me and more about my book, jump onto Kemp Camp on Facebook. And besides writing, I sing in an Irish band, and I do musical theater, and I'm a middle school teacher, so I'm super busy, and I have 4 children. I have tons and tons of animals. I have chickens, I have horses, I have dogs, I have cats, and today, this very afternoon, I'm gonna go out and buy rats for my children. So we're gonna add to our crazy menagerie. They want rats. So we're gonna go out and to the pet store after this and get some, and hopefully be back tonight for Annie's big moment. But I'm so grateful to her. She's one of my besties. I love her to death. And I'm so pleased and grateful to have met all of you. And I will turn the floor over to Nola.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Hi, Nola.
Hey, Annie. So I am thrilled to be here with 2 of my very best friends, Annie and Laura Kemp. So it's kind of fun that we were back to back like that, because Laura and I have been best friends, really good friends for quite a while. I'm Nola Nash. I am originally from Baton Rouge, where I was born and raised. I live now in the Middle Tennessee area with my 3 almost grown kids who say that the favorite child is Dudley. Dudley is my 10-pound Havanese puppy who takes over my Instagram on the regular. And they would be right. Dudley is the favorite child. I'll just go ahead and put that on record right now. So thank you very much to Chris, to Annie, and to Kathy for having me here today. The Crescent City series, you guys heard from book 1, which is Crescent City Moon. Crescent City Sin is actually the July pick, so you'll want to read Crescent City Moon before you get to Crescent City Sin. And like I've told Mandy Haynes, when you get to Crescent City Sin, hold on to your drawers, because that book gets wild, y'all. So it's a paranormal mystery that is set in 1830s New Orleans, and it's full of magic, voodoo, murder, and madness. And so I had the opportunity to learn some of the things that are in the book, because for me, authenticity is extremely important, whether it is the history and the culture of New Orleans or getting the magic and the voodoo right. So I got to learn from a voodoo priestess. I got to learn from a psychic medium friend of mine. We've done seances, we've done candle magic. I've learned to read tarot cards, because getting your hands on the magic is really the only way to get that through to your reader, because it is a full sensory experience. And if you don't experience it, you can't actually get the point across. So when I am not writing and not working on the Second Line show that I host and my wonderful friend Annie produces for me, we have us a good time over there, y'all. Come join us either on the Write Review or my Facebook page, The Second Line, Nola's Second Line, where the Second Line show goes. I am also a middle school teacher. So if you have ever had or known a middle schooler, pray for me, y'all, and pray for Laura too. We need it. All the prayers we can get, all of them. So that is me in a nutshell. And thank you very much for having us today. It is always fun bringing up the rear. So Annie, thank you so much. Much love, girl.
All right, well, thanks everybody. I really appreciate everybody watching. I hope everybody, since it's a bunch of genres, you found a book that you'd like to grab. The winners are book 1 goes to, which is Diane Zinna, goes to Serena Soap. Book 2, which is Patricia Sands' book, goes to Janet Oakley. Book 3, which is Bettye Lee Crosby, goes to Eileen Sanchez. Book 4 is Claire Fullerton, goes to Joe Palmer. Book 5, which is Michelle Cox, goes to Donald Thompson. Book 6, which is Laura Kemp's, goes to Betty Koval. Book 7, which is Nola Nash, goes to Tamara Bolton. And the pajamas going to Marilyn Simon Rothstein. She was kind of begging for him. So thank